Okay, so in my previous video, we were talking about this massive pipeline explosion in the Baltic Sea. Please go back and watch part 1 in case you missed it to understand the magnitude of what we're talking about here, which was very similar to the Gulf of Mexico pipeline explosion that happened over a year ago.
A fire, while others said it looked like the portal to hell opening up.
Okay, so a 50-meter section of this underwater pipeline has just gone missing. Like, that is 50 meters or 150 feet for my Americans. Like, a 50-meter gap is confirmed missing. Now, someone tell me how, even if this was an act of terrorism, how humans would be able to perform such an act, which is claimed by the Swedish, Danish, and German investigators to be very complex and comprehensive. So the Baltic Sea has a depth of 459 meters, right? Or about 1,400 feet. The deepest ever scuba dive is recorded at around 1,000 feet, around 330 meters in depth. Can someone please explain how, even in international waters to which this did occur, which are unpatrolled by international coast guards between Denmark and Sweden, could possibly, even accompanied by a submarine or aquatic craft, possibly be able to carry out such an act, where 50 meters of pipeline was removed by hundreds of pounds of explosives. Hundreds of thousands of tons of methane gas were released during this occurrence. This is an extremely complex event, and not to be considered your typical act of terrorism. This magnitude of an act of sabotage requires enormous resources, skills, planning, and timing. So 50% of the Earth's surface are international waters, which are unpatrolled and unmonitored. Any criminal act that occurs in these waters falls under the flag or nationality of the criminal or entity committing the act. So in this case, Sweden and Russia would need to mount a case against the perpetrators and whatever country those perpetrators belong to, which investigators are proclaiming to be extremely complex. I need to know how anyone could carry out such an act of terrorism, which could possibly remove 50 meters of undersea pipeline and cause this monstrosity. Guys, I don't know why, but this reminds me of the Indonesian sub that was ripped into 3 pieces and found at the bottom of the ocean, to which we still have no understanding as to how or why this could have occurred.
Jadi bukan human error. Karena saat
nobody, of course, could possibly have survived in those conditions. And you're saying also all 53 crew definitely have been confirmed now by the authorities in Indonesia.
Will we ever know? Stop what you're doing. Stop everything. They've done it again. No. Another natural gas pipeline underneath the ocean has been blown the F up. Now, if I can direct your attention to what I'm sure you'll remember was the Gulf of Mexico oil pipeline fire, which was one of the largest oil pipeline infernos extinguished pretty much like ever in human existence. Like, just look at this. Now, this happened well over a year ago, and you can imagine the destruction that this had on the ocean, wildlife, you name it. Now I'll direct your attention back to the Baltic Sea pipeline that has just been found with a suspicious amount of explosives that blew this up. Now, investigators in Sweden, Denmark, and Germany are looking into what has caused this, with Danish officials and the prosecution authority claiming that the preliminary investigation is very complex and comprehensive. Now, the leaks in this pipeline were stopped after several days, but again, one can only imagine the destruction that it would have caused during that time. This occurred in international waters between Denmark and Sweden and is basically being labelled as a terrorist act, which perplexes the mind as to how one could have conducted such a thing. The blasts were likely to have involved several hundred pounds of explosives. Now, if this reminds us of anything, I'm sure it is this Atlantic Ocean test explosion that was carried out in 2021, where a 40,000 pound bomb was let off right near the Gulf of Mexico in the Atlantic Ocean. Let me play this clip for you again with sound. Now, this explosion occurred in the ocean because it was supposed to be a test bombing of a 40,000 pound bomb. I don't know, man. I just cannot wrap my brain around the fact that people are actually blowing up pipelines in the ocean like this. For what? Even if this was a sabotage terrorist act, like for what? Make it make sense. The amount of destruction we've seen of this nature just within the last year. I don't know if it makes you wonder, the same as me, but I am like, what are you so afraid of? Like, what is going on down there that we've got to blow stuff up and create this kind of thing on our planet, man? I swear there's got to be something down there. Like, just tell us what's down there. Why are you blowing this up? What do you think?